First, I'd like to say thank you to OCBC. About 2 weeks ago, we reached out to the Business Council and asked them to flood the gates in terms of letting businesses and providers know that our school districts in Orange County needed some assistance with laptops, Chromebooks, hotspots, internet services. A lot of the districts were facing challenges because as we release students to try to support distance learning, the recognition that the infrastructure around the county is very uniquely different. And so there were naturally the haves and the have-nots. And so the Business Council really stepped up to the plate and put the ask out, and we got a lot of good response. And our districts have been working to receive additional equipment and get that out to staff and students so that we can continue our efforts with this new norm that we're facing. As most of you know, all of the schools are closed right now. We have 27 school districts in the county, and they closed at different times. And some of the public have asked, why didn't they close all at the same time? And naturally, because they have all different governing boards and it's local control. And so from that standpoint, we are different. LAUSD can certainly make one plan, and that impacts the largest part of the city. But in Orange County, we've got 27 different governance structures that are making that call. So we've moved to distance learning. All districts are participating and trying to develop what they need to ensure that students are remaining engaged, that they're receiving instruction, that there's a continuity of learning. And that is different in different places. We have had some really positive results that people have shared. There's been things online on YouTube, things have been sent to our office. We're trying to showcase those things in the Orange County Department of Ed Newsbreak. You can go online if you haven't, if you're not a subscriber, you can subscribe. The Business Council is also sharing information with regards to that. And the distance learning is defined in our world as when the instructor and the student are in two different places. And that can be online learning. It can be packets that are prepared and emailed to students. It can be televised instruction. So it can be any combination of all of those things. And so, as I said, different things are happening in different places. We already had distance learning in many of our districts across the county, and we had virtual classrooms, but we didn't have it throughout the district. And it's different by grade span as well. So the younger grades naturally are getting a different type of instruction than our middle schools and our high schools. And so we've also developed some resource packets that are available for teachers, because we have teachers that this is new to them. They haven't had to try to instruct a classroom from afar. And so they're trying to do professional development at the same time that they're still being engaged with their students and families to answer questions and provide resources. So there are resources that have been developed by our office in conjunction with educators across the county. And it's located in one website. We're trying to provide for both educators, for families, so that they have resources that they can also help their students remain engaged. And I'll provide that website link to Jesse so that he can get it out to all of you. And we hope that you all will continue to share that, because it's a great resource for people. Some of the instruction that's being provided is by PBS. People are linking into Khan Academy. People are linking into some of the resources that have been developed in our office that provide a curriculum that can be graded. Some families have asked the question if the materials are going to be graded or not graded. Again, that is being handled by teachers in the classrooms with regards to what type of work that they're having students do. but for the most part, middle school and high school students are doing work that will be graded in some way. It's credit, no credit, the norm that we know in terms of ABC, that type of thing. There's still some question with regards to when students will come back. There's been an extension for most school districts through the end of April, and we'll reassess and evaluate as we learn more. The county superintendent is in dialogue with the state superintendent of schools, as well as the governor, on a weekly, sometimes daily basis, to try to figure out some of the challenges that we're facing. The biggest one that is still in question naturally is graduations and promotions. They are looking at a number of scenarios. They have not determined, or at least shared with us yet, what is going to be the criteria that has to be met in order for the students to promote and graduate. There's been a number of things that have circulated, so I'm not going to even share some of those with you, because I don't want anyone to think that that's it, because until we're actually told how that's going to be done and what's going to happen there, I think the jury's still out. One of the, I know Jesse sent me some questions. I want to make sure I at least covered those. And then if there are other questions that you all have, I'll be happy to answer those in the few minutes that I have with you this morning. One of the questions were there courses that weren't able to be moved online? And yes, there are some courses that were not able to be moved online. Naturally, some of the lab work that students were doing, they are discovering virtual labs, and they're trying to have students do some work in that area. But there is definitely some gaps that have not been filled yet, and districts are trying to work through that. It's not a one size fits all, and so there's still some unknowns and some challenges with that. In preparation of the materials, students and teachers have been challenged, and also connectivity has been one of the major issues in terms of the fact that many of the students have the laptops, Chromebooks, they have phones that can be utilized, but the internet access has been difficult, and to figure out ways of providing resources around that. There are some districts that are looking at some buses and putting hotspots on buses, similar to what they've done in the Central Valley. But the challenge with that is that we've been told students actually have to be on the bus. And so the challenge is the spacing, the social distancing, and so forth. The good news, I guess you could say, is that we are still managing to feed all students throughout the county. There are a number of places that have been set up as pick up and go, and that is mapped out. We've provided information to the Business Council. We have the information on our website. We're updating that regularly, and we're trying to ensure that no one goes hungry. We've also had faith leaders who have connected with us, and they've also been able to provide meals for families, because schools can provide meals for students, but we can't provide meals for families. And so the faith leaders, some of our charter schools have stepped up and have worked to provide meals for families, because the charter schools also get donations, and so they operate under different rules and guidelines. And so they have been able to fill that void for some of the families in their areas as well. There's been a question with regards to funding and whether or not districts are going to have a financial challenge as they move forward. And because of one of the governor's executive orders, school districts are made whole, so to speak, because they are going to continue to receive state apportionment based on September, or the first day of school, through February 29th. And so they will not be penalized for the days that we have been out going forward. And so that has been really, really good news for districts because we continue to have all employees in paid status. And they will continue to be in paid status as long as we're in the current situation with distance learning and not being open to the public.
We have a question. So Nina, is there a potential of seniors not graduating, thereby impeding their ability to enroll in college or university in fall of 2020?
My understanding is that if students were in good standing in terms of grades and they weren't borderline, then in all probability, they will graduate. The challenge is those students that are didn't have, let's just say they were their GPA was lower than, didn't have all of the credits and so forth, then how do we ensure credit recovery in a timely fashion so that they can continue trade school, community college? Four-year college probably was not an option for those students initially in terms of first year out of high school, just because of where they were currently. But my understanding is at this point that all students that were in good standing in terms of their credits, and they're even looking at what their GPA or what their grades were at the date of dismissal, for lack of a better term, for the coronavirus, and seeing if that might be the grade that they receive. That could be a pro or a con depending on where the students are. The challenge with the part of the ed code is that only teachers can give grades, and so as they're trying to navigate through this, if the state superintendent comes up with a scenario or the governor asks the state superintendent to initiate something, then the question is whether or not they have to waive some of the ed code and through an executive order or through a legislative order. And those are the pieces that are unclear.